this month's edition of the NearTV Magazine Show, we have a feature on the Howth R.N.L.I and the work their volunteers do saving lives at sea. First up though, we interviewed photographer Paul Kelly, whose exhibition North Wall is running in the CHQ building in Dublin's Docklands.
Hello, I'm Paul Kelly and I've been shooting the North Wall series for 2 years now, and this is an ongoing project documenting the people living, working and playing in the community of North Wall. The North Wall series is about me having a project to fulfill artistic desires, to take my camera and take pictures of interesting people, activities, places, and it's a real gift and it's a privilege to have access in the community to take pictures. This project is ongoing, and the reason it's ongoing is that there's so much left to shoot, and this is maybe a more polished or modern side of the North Wall, and that side of the North Wall comes with its people, and those people are the people who work in the offices and the people who come in from the counties or out of town to work in the offices, and I want to photograph them as well. This picture is called The Negotiation, and it's shot around the time of the collecting time at Halloween. So obviously when the boys and girls are out collecting materials for the bonfire, Dublin City Council and the police are keep an eye on things, but smartly the police, the Gardaí, have a kind of a soft policing approach, and they keep an eye on things. They talk to the lads, and if there's too much rubber on the fire, there's usually a deal done, basically, where the lads be allowed to keep a lot of the wood, a lot of less toxic materials, in exchange for allowing the DCC take back some of the rubber and tyres. I wouldn't have the access to take pictures as freely as I do had I not built up that rapport, but it's easily done. It's just down to communication and chatting to people and explaining what I'm hoping to do. For example, I spent a lot of time at the Docklands Boxing Club, a great club down on Oriel Street, and I went and I visited the GAA club and shot pictures up there, Sheriff Street Hall, and then just street life. Anyone in North Wall will tell you stories of the past and stories of working on the docks and their grandfathers working on the docks. But what I'm interested in is now, and as someone said, current history. Now is the new history. So yes, if you learn about the people, you'll learn about the place. Mr. Larry or Lowry as he's known as, is a local character, and he's a local gentleman, and he's a man that you can expect to meet if you're walking the streets of North Wall, and he's always dapper, and he's always in a three-piece suit, and he always has his jewellery and his watch chain, and he always has a friendly word. Summer in the North Wall is a very exciting time for the kids. The area along the docks and along the river becomes a playground, and if the weather is good, you can be sure the characters will be out, and the kids will be out in their wetsuits, and they'll be jumping in the water and swimming and just generally having a good time. This photograph is of Eddie McCarthy, now sadly passed. He was one of the local characters on the street, and his passion was motorbike riding, but sadly he crashed his bike on the docks May 18th last year and died. His daddy was down at the opening of the exhibition and was proud to see the picture of his son here on the easel. I suppose the North Wall series is a labour of love. I just really enjoy taking pictures in the community here. I can't walk down the street without my camera and come back without regretting not having my camera because I've seen something so interesting. You couldn't write it. The stories, the visual stories that present themselves here are continually interesting, continually amazing, and that's down to the people and the community, and I feel it's a privilege to have access and permission to shoot those pictures.
My name is Colin Newport. I'm the lifeboat operations manager here in Howth Lifeboat Station. For my sins, I was in the wrong place at the right time, and I took over from our predecessor last May, which was Rupert Jeffers, who's a long-standing operations manager here. Basically, the job of operations manager is to oversee the safe operation of our two boats, our inshore boat and our offshore all-weather boat, based here at the station in Howth. We provide a 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, volunteer cover, life-saving at sea. All the positions in this station, with the exception of the mechanic, are voluntary. When we take a volunteer in, they would sign a volunteer commitment with the R.N.L.I. We would expect them to train once a week with us. We have a minimum amount of training we expect monthly, but when they come in provisionally, we say once a week. They will be in as a probationary crew member for 1 year. During that year, we will train them in all aspects of boat operation, mostly on the inshore lifeboat. If at the end of a year's period they like us, we like them, and they're not seasick, they will be sent to pool on an intensive course for their own personal safety and sea survival. They will then be accepted onto the crew, will be given a pager, and when you carry that pager, you're expected to respond to that pager 24/7. We like people geographically to live to the east of Sutton Cross, because it would be too dangerous with the road traffic situation trying to respond to a pager if you were from outside that area. Obviously, it would be great if everybody lived close to the harbour, as would have happened in the past. When there was a big marine industry here, you had a pool of marine and maritime people who would gravitate in from the sea into shoreside industry. That has sort of shrunk now with the shrinking of the fishing fleet and the marine industries locally. So we have to cast our net a little further, and a lot of our volunteers are from all walks of life. We have sailmakers, we have airline pilots, doctors, you name it, they're here. Unfortunately, a lot of them work off the peninsula, which is a problem. If we get a shout, we call a shout, it's when we are tasked to provide search and rescue services. Midweek, i.e. the guys are at work, as I say, some of them work off the peninsula, they'll be working in the city or wherever. It can be difficult to fill the boat. You know, at the weekends and at night, we would be oversubscribed and we may have to turn back crew at the door. First come, first served.
My role with Howth R.N.L.I is I'm the team leader of the fundraising team. I have a team of volunteers of approximately 200 spread over Howth, Sutton, Portmarnock and Malahide, and our job is very simple. We have to raise funds to ensure that the crew have the best equipment to go to sea when they go to save lives. We would have a number of events throughout the year. We have Flag Day collections in the different areas, and we'll have approximately 100 volunteers, everybody doing just a 2-hour shift, but that's quite enough when you're standing on the street and the weather mightn't be great, and everybody does their bit to raise money. It's a complete spread of people. Mother whose son may be on a fishing trawler, to somebody whose brother may have died in a tragedy, to school children, because we run a large education program going out into the schools, teaching them a little bit about volunteering, which is important, and obviously sea safety. There is no funding from the government, and the R.N.L.I like to be in control of how the money is spent, so they would prefer to be able to rely on the volunteers fundraising, but also we rely a lot on legacies from people. So people who would support us and may not have the funds at the time to look after a donation, then we ask them to leave us maybe a percentage of the residue of their legacy. And this works very well for us. And a lot of the boats in the lifeboat are funded from legacies. And we have one coming to the station here, which will be named in October, a new D-class, an inshore lifeboat, which has been donated to the lifeboat station through a legacy. Well, that inshore lifeboat is just under 70,000. We also received 2 years ago a large legacy from a gentleman in Malahide, which is helping to fund a new pontoon that we're building here beside the station so we can bring the lifeboat alongside, which will speed up our response and cut down our launching time. Yes, the R.N.L.I has made some big decisions recently, and whereas we were always in the situation where we went out and we saved lives at sea, we now have a campaign to reduce the number of drowning deaths by 2025 by 50%. To tackle this, it's important that we educate people as to the risks at sea or in canals or wherever, because you don't have to plan to go to sea to drown. And as part of this Respect the Water campaign, we're targeting particularly young men between 18 and 40 years of age, because this appears to be the large area that we are having these problems. We work together now as a complete team, the education team together with the crew, to prevent tragedies, so that we can give advice to people going to sea through either education, through open days, through people visiting the station, and making direct contact with anglers and the kayaking clubs. Everybody who goes to the sea, we have an area, we work on those and we highlight, but it's still the people who actually have nothing to do with the sea, who don't intend to go to sea, is really a huge target area.
I'm John Craddock and I'm currently the Commodore of Howth Sailing and Boating Club. Even people who don't go to sea probably at this stage have heard about and seen what the R.N.L.I do, either through their own publicity or just watching it on TV. So it's not hard to raise funds for them. It's a question of just being organised enough to actually do it. You have people who love what they do, who will go to sea at a moment's notice to stop you from completing a stupid mistake and save your life and bring you back to port. The first Irish nautical quiz was held last year in November. It was an idea that came about through a talk we had in the club about what we could do to raise more money for the R.N.L.I, and that's going to be an annual event from now on. We raised €2,200 for the R.N.L.I and we're hoping to raise 5,000 next year. That's our target.
I got involved in the R.N.L.I because I was a fisherman for years, and I had an 18-foot lobster boat and fishing around here locally. I was out with my brother around hauling pots, and I put my boat on a rock at the back of Ireland's Eye, just about a couple of miles off the shore here, and this boat arrived on the scene with two guys in it called the McConkie brothers, who were involved in the local fire brigade here in Howth. Unknown to me at the time, they also had a lot of nephews on the lifeboat, and they gave me great assistance that day and towed the boat off and towed me onto the beach of Ireland's Eye, and in their best Howth accents they said I should join the goddamn lifeboat, which I did. I came into the lifeboat station. They introduced me to one of their nephews, a guy called Robert Duffy, who was second coxswain at the time. Absolutely fantastic bloke. I just fitted like a hand into a glove. I really loved the whole thing. It was a bit like being on a fishing boat, because we had a lot of fishermen on the crew at the time and we all kind of knew each other. Yes, I'm the one paid member, but I'll get my piece in. I'm a paid member from 9 to 5, and after that then I'm a volunteer. I got to make sure that all the kit, particularly on the ALB, is ready to go at a moment's notice, and this boat I'm sitting on is an ILB, and the ILB has a dedicated mechanic of its own. Well, it's ongoing because it's not that the boat is getting lots of use. She's sitting there waiting to go all the time. So things when they're kind of left lying tend to deteriorate a lot quicker. So it's my job to make sure it's not. And any problems on the boat, report them in, raise a defect. A technical team then looked at the defect and then advised me on how I may or may not be able to fix it. The other part of it is kit on board, make sure everything's in the right date so we're still able to use it. Make sure all the navigation kit has the proper cards in there, like license basically. Make sure that the license for the kit we have is all up to date, so that when we go out, we're not going out in the blind. Basically, it's making sure everything is right and ready to go. We carry flares, hopefully not for our own use. We carry 2 red distress flares, but we carry a lot of white illuminating flares, which are used for searching at night time. We also carry a night vision, Sometimes the night vision is not up to the job. We set off a few white parachute flares, pretty impressive. Lights up an area at night, make it like daytime. Sometimes it helps us see the casualty, but more than a lot, it helps the casualty see us. Well, you can hear the boys on the radio there now. We work very closely with the Coast Guard. When people say Coast Guard, like, there's 3 types of Coast Guard we have here in Ireland that we work with. We have the lads in Leeson Lane, they're kind of like the coordinators, MRCC. If somebody calls in, says they're in trouble, they get the call initially, and then they decide whether they're going to use what assets they're going to use, whether it's going to be us, or their Coast Guard helicopters, or their local Coast Guard units. And we have worked with them and quite successfully saved lives, which is what it's all about. The crew are great. We're very lucky in Howth, as I'm sure all stations are, with the crew that we have, because you get the right type of person joining an organisation like this. They want to be there. It's a big commitment. You're on call. You're carrying the pager. Anything could be happening in your normal day-to-day life, and your pager goes off. And these guys turn up, and the girls turn up, and they get themselves down here as fast as they can. They all look like rabbits in headlights because they don't really know what's going on. They come charging in the door, and something tends to happen to them. They bring themselves into the R.N.L.I zone, get their head together, get their kit on, and away we go. The best story I can say to you, rather than go into gore and blood and guts, is it's not necessarily the person that we save, because they're in shock, because there's a lot going on for their little heads. Getting them out of the water, getting them fixed up, getting them ready for the paramedics when we get them back in the shore. It's the faces of their family, particularly children, when they come in, they see their dad or their mum, and it's that look that you know that you made a difference that day, and they're going home with their parents or their brother or their sister, or even their family pet, which we've been out to quite a few times for dogs and cats and cows and horses. And you know you've made a difference. You walk up the road, you feel about 10 foot tall, and that's why I do it. I like doing it because of that.